Hey guys, Jason Timothy here, musicsoftwaretraining.com, and today we're going to get into exponential rhythms. And what that is it's a rhythm that's not necessarily in time with the tempo of your song. It can speed up and slow down to create kind of interesting things that sound rhythmic by not being on time. And I'll show you what that sounds like here with this right here. So if I turn this off, we've got a basic rhythm. So all this stuff is in time. And then there would be a rhythm that is doing the exponential sort of rhythm. And that's what is happening here. All right, so let's turn that down to a more reasonable volume so that we can hear it within the context of the song. There we go. So it can give some really interesting results to rhythms and make things sound less predictable. So let me go ahead and just start from scratch. So I'm going to turn this off here. And I'm just going to find a sample. That'll work. So I'm just going to drag it into this MIDI track here, and it's going to create a simpler instrument. What we want to do is start with a long note here. So we're going to create a MIDI track. Let me just close this so we don't get confused. And C3 is the actual pitch of the sound. If I were to put it above the C3, we're going to have higher pitch or lower. But let's just start here, all right? So now what we have is just a simple, just one little hit, right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn these down just a little bit more so that we can focus a little bit. All right, so we've got the sound and it's just playing once because that's all we're asking it to do is play once. So what we want to do is instead put this into loop mode, all right? And that way, when we have a long note being held down, it's going to cause this to loop. All right, I can turn this down. So now all we have to do is play with the loop size, all right? So as we get closer, it goes faster. As we go further, it goes slower. So all right, so in order to do that, we can simply automate the length here, all right? So now that we've got this length chosen, we can either come in here on the automation on the track, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the clip. And as you can see, it also chooses that envelope on the clip. So now what I can do is I can just create an automation here. So let's start fast and go a little bit slower. So we'll do this. We could just loop that if we want. So we've got kind of a 4-bar thing happening here. So now with the rhythm, but now what I want to do is I want to create some resets. Every time we drop a new note in, it's going to start on time, okay? So we're going to go into our notes, and let's just start by making every bar, it'll start on the right note, all right? All right, so good fun there. We could even shorten these if we want and have it reset more often. I don't know if that is necessary, but so that way we get that first hit every time, so it doesn't seem completely off. It just seems kind of off in between these important set points, okay? And then we could just do kind of whatever crazy stuff we want with the automation of that length time. So we come back over to our envelope and we click here on the loop length. We get back into our automation. So we can make all kinds of interesting and fun automations. And if we want, we can make it longer. So every time this loops, it actually does different things. So we can go to unlinked here and we can create, let's say, 16 bars. All right. So we'll start by just copying this through. And then what I can do is just create loads of different interesting sorts of automation. Now remember, the lower we go, the faster the loop is going to go, and the higher we go, the slower. All right, so we can do some fun and interesting stuff here. So now we have a lot of variation going on here, all right? So every time we go through, we're getting a little bit different of automation. Let's see here. Yeah. And once again, because we have this resetting every half bar, we're getting a single hit right on that beginning note, so it seems to retime itself. And that kind of balance between being off and back on in important times is what's going to give the exponential rhythm some interesting things. Now, what we might want to do here is take this closed hi-hat and actually make it longer. So let me just drop this into an audio track here, all right? And what I'm going to do is let's just create a longer length for this, all right? So there's going to be more silence on the end. So I'm just highlighting this and hitting consolidate, which is Command J, control if you're on a PC. So now we've got a longer sample. And if I drag this in to here, now I have a longer tail to work with, all right? All right, so now we've got we can have much slower sort of loops as well. So when we come back into our automation, this here is going to be much slower, and this here is going to be, the same. But so these we'll probably want to pull down a little bit more. Actually, what I'll do, let's highlight all this. I'm going to pull most of this down, right? And then during certain points, let's say towards the end here, we can get slower and a little bit slower here. There we go. Oh, it's because we actually got that sample in there. All right, there we go. And then we could kind of put little breaks in between as well to build a little bit more anticipation. So what we can do. Play with that third beat there. So again, we got to click here on our loop length. And let's see what we got here. Let's make that go a little bit slower. So we'll do like a this and then slower. Let's see. So that is the basics of exponential rhythms, and you can like create all kinds of different really interesting things. If you want, you could just make little 1 bar or 2 bar sorts of things. If you want to like create, for example, let's just make this here, we'll make a new MIDI clip here, right? So we'll just drag this across, and then we'll come to our envelope, click on that loop length again. Actually, I'm going to turn off retrigger as well. So what I'm going to do with this is just have it go fast to slow. So start here, click over here. There we go. Let's go back to our notes. We just want the velocity to stay the same as the other. Let's get this more into the mix, and then I'll turn this stuff up. So now that we have this, what we can do is we can actually resample this into audio. All right. I'll tell you why we might want to do this. So I'm just going to quickly record this here. I'm just going to solo this hi-hat here. Cool. So now we've got this. One cool thing that we can do now is we could actually cut this up and do some more interesting things with audio on a particular sound. So that's one thing that we can do, is just edit the audio, which is a bit easier than editing the MIDI. The next thing that we can do though, is we could come in here and we could check our warping here. As you can see, some of this stuff, it's not actually showing, but if we are willing to take the time, so as you can see, it has markers here where everything is. So if you're willing to kind of go through and grab these, then this becomes a rhythm that you can apply to any other thing that you want. So I'm going to just kind of go through this real quick, and then once I'm done, I'll show you what we can do with this. All right, so this part can be a little bit tedious, but it can be worthwhile. So I'm just going to do like a bar of this for right now. Cool. So I'll just take this here. We'll just turn this into a 1-bar loop. So now what I can do is I can right click, I can extract the groove here. As you can see, we have this groove. So now, so let's create a MIDI track. If we drag this in, we've got this loop that we created, and as you can see, it's created all the markers here, right? So what I would probably want to do is put this on C3, and this way I could drag in, let's just drag in a sampler, or a simpler rather, and let's find like a voice sample or something, right? So come into our sample folder. Let's see what I got here. All right, so I'm going to do this, and then let's find, like, turn on our MIDI. All right. I believe that that's the right note. Going to put the release long and the decay long, and then we get something like this. Right, so we can like now use this clip for any sample that we want. I think I've got some vocal stuff in one of these. There we go, vocal 1. Now we can just take something like that. All right, so we'll do this. There's a couple clicks in front, so we'll just move the beginning of the sample. All right, and now we've got. like so. So then what we can do is we could actually create a folder. I'll just put over here, and I'll just call it Exponential. So you could create a folder and then just drag your MIDI files in. Once again, I would put it on C3, and that will put it to the same note. Come in and find your pitch bend, and then you can just do something like that. So yeah, you just drag this MIDI file into your Exponential folder. You could actually kind of pull this in and listen to what it does, and then you could just come in and change the sample with anything you want. So I hope that this has given you a little bit of insight of things that you can do, and not really that difficult to do. So that is Exponential Rhythm, and I hope you make something out of it and enjoy it. Take care.